apply as last week. You're going to get yourself into your plank or into your quadruped position. From here, we tuck the tailbone. From here, draw the belly button in, and then we're going to take those ribs and we're going to lift them up so that we have a nice straight spine. So from this position, then make sure you have your weight loaded 50-50 between your hands and your knees. A lot of tendency will be to shift your weight back. Don't allow that to happen. You want to go about 50-50 distribution between your hands and your feet. And then from there, without allowing anything to shift in your body, you're going to lift one hand off the ground. From there, come back down, and then you could do the same thing on the other side. What I would have you do is kind of relax, reset. So tuck the tailbone again, pull the belly button in, lift the rib cage, make sure you have that 50-50 split between your hands and your knees. And then from there, we're going to lift the other hand off the ground. As much as you felt the contraction last week, you're going to feel it even more as you do this. Biggest things to be aware of, don't let your hips shift away from the hand that's lifted into the air. That'll be a big tendency, is to let your hips shift as you lift. There should be zero movement in anything in your body except for that hand. And as you lift that hand off the ground, you're going to feel a major increase in contraction of your core muscles in order to stabilize and hold that position of that quad plank as you unweight that hand. Enjoy. There. Keep a soft bend in the knees. Keep the knees right over the ankles. From this position, we'll initiate the row with a slight elevation in our shoulder. From there, we'll retract the shoulder, follow through until the elbow hits about the middle of the rib cage. Once we have that, we're going to keep the elbow fixed to the rib cage, rotate the upper torso towards the rowing side, and counter rotate the hips away from that side. From there, we return the hips to neutral position, return the shoulders to neutral position, allow the arm to extend, and then the shoulder to protract. Key points: belly button stays pulled in, rib cage stays elevated. As you row, initiate the row with the elevation, retraction, follow through with the elbow. Don't let the elbow come up into this extreme kind of bicep curl position. Try to keep the elbow or the forearm parallel to the floor. Rotate the ribs, counter rotate the hips, and then return to the same position. For the Medball hyperextension slams, the key of this exercise is to really get the pelvis with a good core engagement to get into this extended position before we throw our weight back to our heels into the hinge position and do the Medball slam. The biggest thing that we want to see is that when we are in that extension position, the core muscles stay engaged and we keep this neutral spine. We're not doing this hyperextension of the lumbar spine. The hyperextension should be from the pelvis, not from the lumbar spine. So we don't want to see this happen. We want to see this happen as we do the Medball slams. So pick the ball up. We'll take the ball back over the head. Once the ball's back over the head, you're going to shift your weight to the balls of the feet. Brace the core muscles so that way when you extend back, we're putting a lot of stress on the core muscles. Take your time here. It's not a rush. We want to definitely find that point where you just can't extend your hips anymore without losing core engagement. And then once you have that, you're going to shift your hips back so you drive your heels down into the ground, come into this hinge position as you throw the ball to the ground. the power that you can create from getting all of the stretch on the core is what's going to create the power that transfers to the hinge. So the ball comes up, arms are behind the head. We're going to shift the pelvis forward or anterior, keeping the core muscles engaged. Feel like you're doing a plank. You can probably see my body shaking here. From here, hips shift back, heels drive down. We finish in this hinge position. We start with our feet a little bit wider than hip width. Toes are going to be pointed together. We'll have a hinge in the hips. Belly button's pulled in, rib cage is elevated. The goal for this lateral wall ball is to get the power from the external hip here. The arms are simply going to assist with the rotation. So you'll take the ball back. So we're loading up our right hip, have the ball to the right side. From here, we'll throw the ball into the wall, catch the ball, return back to the starting position. The harder you throw the ball, the more feedback you'll get back from the wall. Start with a little bit less power. As you gain confidence, you can go harder and harder with this exercise. As you rotate into the wall, you're trying to get an extension from the hip and trying to keep a connection between the hip and the shoulders as you're coming through. You should feel good engagement of the core. The body shouldn't move like a slinky. There should be a connection between the hip and the shoulder doing the throwing.